like the chicken whisperer. Not many left in the corner now. We're getting there. Getting down to the best ones, hopefully. So, we finally did enough weeding in the front plot to be able to get our kumara planted. We haven't quite finished, we've still got some weeds in the row there and a few in there. But we just had to get the kumara in. We got them in yesterday, which was the 24th of January, so we're cutting it fine, getting them enough time to grow before the frost, but hopefully we'll get a decent crop. Normally you do a bit of a mound in the middle. We've only got a small mound because we were going so fast, because we only had a certain amount of time before we had to go into town. But we've got a bit of a mound in there and planted the kumara shoots on each side. These are ones from sprouted supermarket ones that we rooted in jars on the windowsill. We've got orange kumara down this end and the purple skinned ones down this end. They're supposed to be planted about 30 centimetres apart, or 12 inches. But they sort of got closer and closer towards the end because I had so many. Just trying to see what I could fit in. And they planted diagonal spacing, so that will give them a little bit more space. But yeah, we have got a lot in here. We got them in, and that's the main thing. I was going to put some in the other row over there too, but then I decided it's getting that late that I actually better save that for my brassicas, because it's pretty much just about time to start sowing them for the cold season now, even though we're still in the midst of summer. Hello, have you come to help? Look at your hens. We've eaten some of our early girl tomatoes already, which are down there. They're pretty good. They don't taste like as good as heritage tomatoes, but certainly better than store-bought ones. And these are the Amish paste, which are starting to ripen up. There's a fidgety little person here. And we've had a few cherries from the raised bed garden too. Hey guys, welcome to Wild Hope Homestead. I'm just getting some beans, some dry beans ready to soak overnight so I can cook them in the morning, and I thought I would show you guys what I'm doing. So first I am just having a wee look through the beans and rinsing them before I put them in the pot, just to get rid of any ones that are a bit broken or bad, or any bits of little stones or debris. So here are some dry ones. Beans are great to buy in bulk and store, and then you can cook up a batch to well, so far I freeze them, but I have got a pressure canner now, so I'm going to have to learn how to pressure can them to get them into shelf-stable jars at some point. But at the moment, freezing them in jars or bags or trays works very well, and then they're just ready to use for cooking. These beans are bought kidney beans because we use a lot of kidney beans. And obviously I can't grow all the beans that we need because that would take up a lot of space. So I'm just looking through them all and getting rid of any that are quite broken or have bad bits, which is not many. And then I'm going to put them into the pot. This one's a little bit bigger than it needs to be, but I'm using the other ones for butchering in the morning. So yeah. Rinsing them in the sieve or the colander. A flick them into the pot, checking them over again. Mostly for debris or bad ones, you don't want them in there. It's kind of harder to find once they're in a pot of water or cooked. You don't really want to be eating those. And these are some of the beans that we grew last season. This one is, I don't know how to pronounce it properly, Duo Cowboy or Duo Cowboy, Duo Cowboy bean. We haven't tried most of these varieties before, so this is the first time growing them. And I've saved seeds from some. It's just taken me a while to get around to cooking them and tasting them. But I'm doing a few beans at once. If I'm doing one lot, I do a few. And this is Good Mother Stillard, another one of our new climate beans. I think I can fit one more pot on the stove. So I'm doing these genuine cornfield. So I've got my 4 pots of beans here, sitting in water, covered by an inch or so of water to soak overnight, and I'm going to put the lids on and leave them here and then drain them in the morning. He's hiding from Basil up here. Both the young dudes. You know when to hide from Basil, don't you? You're just going to stay up there until it's safe to come down. And Basil's distracted. I've got 6 boys left in here on the corner. And the youngest batch. Just trying to get down to two best, and then I'll pop them in the main flock to let them grow out a bit more. It's just hard making decisions. These young pullets. Hopefully we'll get some starting to lay soon. Hello. Can't remember how old they are off the top of my head, but any week now they could start laying. Which will be nice. This is Judith's bluegill, who is possibly the nicest colouring. Well, her and Jemima's girl actually. There's Jemima's girl down there. They have the best lacing, which is the dark blue edging around the feathers. And they do look very pretty. I know. There she goes. It's hard to see in this morning light. It's the next morning, and now that the beans have soaked overnight, they've plumped up a bit, and they're ready to be drained and rinsed and then cooked. Okay, everyone's looking after these children. So I'm draining the beans in the colander and then rinsing them one more time before putting them back into the pot. So I ran into a bit of an issue with the Good Mother Stillard beans. When I rinsed them last night, there were some little stowaways that had been in the container. Small little black or dark brown beetles. I did note there were, when we were shelling the beans, some of them had little holes in them. I guess there were obviously eggs in the beans. And after just being stored for a while, some of the beetles had hatched out. I got them all out with rinsing last night, except that there are obviously ones inside some of the beans. They're quite obvious after soaking when the beans are all nice and plumped up, any with dark pictures. I mean, the odd one doesn't really matter, but when there are a bunch of them that have little beetles growing inside them, it's not great. So I'm having to go through and pick them out. I haven't had this happen with dried beans that I've grown before, so I'm not sure if it's just this particular variety or what, but I'll be keeping an eye on the other varieties. The other two I've got that I got ready last night didn't have any beetles or holes. I have planted this variety again this year, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. At the moment, I'm not liking how this is going.
Well, I've got out the worst affected beans. It won't hurt us to have a little extra protein, but it's more the thought of it that's not very nice. Well, I could have solved most of this problem by cooking the beans sooner, before beetles hatched out at all. Yeah, most of the bean varieties have been sitting around for about 3/4 of a year, waiting to be cooked, and I just didn't get to it sooner. The beans have all been drained and put back into their pots and covered by around 2 inches of water. And now I'm going to bring them to the boil and then cook them for however long it takes each variety to be cooked through until soft. I'm going a little bit fine with the small pot, but I'll just keep an eye on them. Each bean variety, or it depends on the variety, how long it takes to cook. Kidney beans are definitely the ones that will take longer, and you want to make sure that they're definitely cooked properly, because they can be toxic if they're not thoroughly cooked. But once they're properly cooked, they're all good, just like the ones you buy in cans at the supermarket. Just something to be aware of. So I've got all the lids on slightly ajar to let the steam out, and I'm going to bring them to the boil. So these beans, the black Kadua cowboy beans, are the first ones to check if they're cooked. They look pretty cooked because they're already starting to peel, but we'll blow on them and see what they do. It's hard to hear this. If they start to peel when you blow on them, they are cooked. So I've turned that element off, and I'll just leave them to sit there and cool down before we deal with them, while waiting for the rest of them to cook.
It's kind of a busy morning. I've got to get these beans done because I need beans for cooking our mince and beans dinner tonight. But I've also got to get butchering done as soon as Scarlett's in bed. So I'm just going to put these pots of beans that I've done on a rack on the table to cool down, and then I'll put them into jars or whatever I'm doing with them to freeze after butchering and lunch. Right, it's back to the beans now. They've cooled down, and I'm draining off the liquid of the first lot and using a slotted spoon to put them into this little measuring jug in 2 cup amounts. 2 cups is approximately a can of beans. For each different variety of bean, I like to measure out 2 cups and then weigh them, and then just weigh each lot thereon after. These kidney beans are around about 350 grams, so I'm going to weigh increments of that. I'm putting most of the beans that are in 2 cup increments into vacuum seal bags. I can probably just about do it with one hand, maybe. Anyway, so I'm going to vacuum seal some of these. Don't mind my spillage over there. I put some of the liquid and some of the beans into the fridge for tonight's dinner. Yep. And so after I've done a few of these, I'm going to do some in these silicone mould trays. These are my 1 cup silicone mould trays. I'm actually going to put a little bit of the liquid or bean stock in with those too, because if I'm using them for lunches, I would like to have some liquid with them to mix in with rice. I freeze any gravy or fat from like meat that we roast. I can get out like just a little bit of gravy from the freezer to mix in with lunch things if I need to, but having liquid already in there would be handy. Now I'm going to get them into the fridge and then the freezer, because these aren't quite as cooled down as the other beans. There we go, some nice portions ready for easy lunches to get out of the freezer. It's very interesting tasting the beans. I didn't put any seasoning in the pots, so yeah, really just getting the full natural flavour. The genuine cornfield was definitely nicer than the other two that we grew, Good Mother Stallard and Dua Cowboy. The Dua Cowboy ones, the black ones, were pretty plain, but yeah, these ones had quite a nice flavour. Unfortunately, I didn't grow any of these this season because they were one of the 2 least productive beans. But in saying that, I didn't sow the same amount of beans of each variety. Genuine cornfield and Ojo de Cabra, and the Abenaki peen or bicoloured peen. Those were the 3 that produced the least amount of beans, dried beans for us. That's why I kind of wanted to taste them all. But anyway, we're going to work our way through the different varieties as I cook them up and see what they taste like. So even if they taste quite nice, if they're not super productive and we're not getting much out of them, well, I just have to think about that too. But these ones are going to be for lunches, since they were nice. I just need to remember to add some seasoning before I use them. I mean, you don't have to, but a bit of salt and a bit of garlic powder would be quite nice, and maybe some herbs and some onion powder. So we've got a nice pile of beans here ready to go into the freezer, vacuum sealed, and then we've got more in the fridge and freezer in the silicone trays. For the leftover bean liquid after cooking the beans, or the bean stock, I put it into these silicone trays, the 1 cup ones usually, and then vacuum seal them in bags and put them in the freezer. It's a rainy morning. We haven't had much, well, hardly any rain for the last week or more probably, so I'm actually kind of glad to have some rain back again, especially after I planted the kumara shoots. It will help give them a good start, and just in time so I didn't have to water the garden. Good morning, chickies. It's Jemima's girl. Hello, pretty girl. I kind of forgot about harvesting the gherkins the last few days. Yeah, that's the size that they're getting to. There's an even bigger one behind there. We're just using them for eating since we haven't got enough gherkins. Getting ready at the same time to do pickling. They're fine for eating, but they're not supposed to get too fat and seedy. Oh, soggy. We've had a lot of rain. We've had rain all day since early morning or sometime in the night, and it's set to get heavier this evening.